Okay, Mike Masato, CEO of Staff Driven Dental, the Dental Road Warrior, returning for episode 34 in the series. I don't know why it took me so long to get to this one, but this is a major one, so you better maybe want to take some notes on it. Or just listen to it time and time again. That's the beauty of technology today, right? So I want to talk today about the three types of policy, absolute vital necessity policy that you must have in your practice in order to succeed. In other words, you cannot succeed in the business of dental practice without these three types of policy. And some of you may have them in some form or another, to various degrees or another, but when you can identify these three types of policy to make sure that they're in and being utilized properly and effectively, you will be greatly more successful than you are right now in the business part of what you do. All right, so let's look at each of these three types of policy you must have to have. All right, one of them is operational policy. The other one is staff policy. The third being patient policy. So we got operational policy, staff policy, and patient policy. So first of all, what is a policy anyway? A policy is basically an agreed upon way of doing things in our practice in order to get things done. These are operational guidelines that staff and patients and yourself included must follow in order to be successful and to run a successful operation in business. So like I said, we have operational policy, staff policy, and patient policy. Let's break them down. What are they? Well, first of all, operational policy would be the step-by-step way you want things done in your practice. In other words, your new patient experience from like how a patient is handled from the first phone call all the way straight through to when they arrive and the steps they go through in the practice is an operational policy. Your phone scripting is an operational policy. What do you want? How do you want the phones to be answered, and what is said on the phones to people on the phone when they call the office? That's an operational policy. Your new hygiene system in your practice, operational policy on hygiene. How you want hygiene delivered by all of your hygienists, whether you have one hygienist or 10 in your practice. This would be a step-by-step way to get the desired outcome and desired product coming out of the room that you want to have happen every single time without variation. Your brand of hygiene and how it's delivered. So that's another operational policy. Your sales system, the way dentistry is presented and sold in our practice, is an operational policy. So there are many of these that you need to basically have written down, laid out step by step, and trained upon. So having an operational policy manual, so to speak. So this is the training that we go through in order to run an effective practice here. So, and you can't have an effective business if your staff's not trained on something. And a lot of times we do this verbally by telling people what to do, or shadow this person and watch them. But if you don't put it in writing, and it's not going to be effective. All right, verbally telling people what to do and being coached on what to do is not enough. So operational policy that are written, trained upon, followed, enforced. Key thing is enforced. You have to enforce these policies. No purpose in having policy in your practice if you're not going to enforce it, and there's no penalty for not enforcing it. So we need to have operational policies. That's step one, running the business day to day. Patient policy, staff policy. Let's go to staff policy first. Staff policy. What is that? Your employee handbook, your job descriptions, your employment agreements. These things fall into the category of staff policy. Now, a little bit on this. This is critical in this day and age. Your staff policy manual, first of all, your employee handbook should not be downloaded off the internet. This is not something you get from your payroll company or the state board. You don't want to open yourself up to liability by having some kind of templated handbook here. This is a legal document. You need to get it from an attorney who understands the laws as they pertain to business, corporate governance, and perhaps potentially and more effectively and definitely who understands dental practice. So that's very important. So have someone take care of that. And this shouldn't cost you $10,000, $15,000 to do out there. They work on templates and then they customize them. That's what I do for my clients, working with a firm that has my material that's customized it for my clients. But again, be careful. Don't get ripped off by spending exorbitant amounts of money on having your employment legal stuff tightened all up. But again, this is important because this is the flavor of the times right now. If you look around years ago, the way staff got their employers was slip and fall. When people got hurt on the job. And if you notice, you don't hear about that much anymore because they closed a lot of these loopholes. And now the flavor of the times is what? All the things we hear about right now. I think I've alluded to this in another episode. The sexual harassment situations we have coming up, unfair labor practices, discrimination. These things all fall under the hostile work environment. These are things we're not necessarily up to speed on, trained on, and you open up yourself to a lot of liability if you don't have training and understanding about these things and being in compliance with the law. And it's really important to get this stuff nailed down by having this in place. Now, this is important as a legality of this of all these things now would also be I call them the rules for happy living. That's what the staff policy manual really is. The employee handbook is I call them the rules again for happy living. Basically, it covers all the things in this handbook. Like, what about sick time? What about time off? What about bereavement time? What about all these things that come up many, many times? How does vacation time work? You put it all in the handbook and make it fair and equitable for everybody, because you cannot your perks and your benefits of your practice, because it's not fair if you have it to be arbitrary and not equal to everybody there. So you put it in there, all the questions get answered. You follow the manual, put it in the handbook, right? The staff policy manual. The third and most violated of all types of policy is really patient policy. And those are the things we use to train our patient base. Like, these are the rules of our practice. Because if you notice, what do patients mostly do? They come in and they make up the rules, and they train us. And the big challenging thing when you implement this in your practice is being able to untrain the patients, taking back control of the practice, because basically they have you trained just the way they like it. So now all of a sudden we're going to put our rules in place. So, and obviously it's a lot harder for existing patients who've been there for a while. This is going to be a change, but it can be done. But new patients are easy. They think this is the way it's always been in our practice. So it can easily be done with new patients, because they figure this is the way it's always been. With existing patients, it takes a little bit more finesse. It takes about learning the how-to, and that's where the coaching comes in. And what to do is the policies. The how to do it is how to deliver on them effectively so patients comply. But you have to learn how to do that. And that's where you can coach to learn how to do all of that and how to implement these. They will work. People will follow them. They will go around with them. You just need to know how to put them in place, because people just do not know how to do that. And so we kind of just stick with what we're doing. We get comfortable with what we're doing, and we don't change anything. It's very important that we put these patient policies in place, because again, it takes back control of the practice, to have things run smoothly. It covers all the things that drive us crazy, like what happens if you're late. What about if you don't show up? Cancellations and no-shows. What about payment? It's amazing that we have to actually teach patients that they have to pay, and this is how you pay. This is how money's handled in our practice. This is how insurance is handled in our practice or not. Really important as well. And these are things that they require, like orientation. If they're patients new to a practice, the first thing you should be doing on that first visit, in addition to all the other intake work that you do, is implementing these patient policies. It's a must. Oh, this is the kind of practice we're in. Oh, this is the kind of practice I'm coming to. They're on the ball here. I guess they know what's going on here. Because the first time, for example, they walk out without paying the first day they're there, oh, this must be the kind of practice I'm in. Works out great for me. I don't pay here. All right, we're actually training people to do this by not laying out the policies and the rules of the practice. And again, this is not off-putting. This doesn't upset people if you do it the right way on the first day when they're in our practice. So again, but you have to be set up and build time into your new patient experience to make sure that we go over these patient policies from day one out of the gate. Because it's an old expression, take care of the beginning and the end takes care of itself. So if you take care of the beginning, you're not going to have problems later on with all these people saying, I don't know, I don't understand why, and you have all these collections out in the street and all these problems with insurance later on and everything else, because we never took care of this the right way with patients in the beginning. And these are put in writing, and they do sign off on them, and they do get a copy of them, and you manage them by agreement, not by emotion. One of the things I always teach with my clients, manage your practice and your patients by agreement, not by emotion. Well, I like this person. He's great. I don't like this patient so much. Make sure you hammer that one. You can't do it that way. It's very difficult to manage your practice emotionally. So make it fair and equitable, equal across the board. You manage by whether people follow the policies or not. All right. So that makes it much easier and less stressful for the entire practice doing it this particular way. All right? right? So these patient policies cover all these things, and there's about 9 of them that I go over and put in place. But I'm telling you, when you put patient policy, probably it's the most violated of all types of policies. I think I just said that. Remember the reason why? Because we don't want to confront patients, and we don't want to upset them with too many rules and guidelines. Look, as I said before, this is not an overwhelming, overbearing thing to put in your practice. And if you think it's troublesome now, wait till later when you don't have policies and it comes back to bite you later on. Very important to have these patient policies in place. All right. So again, what's great about this also is that you train the staff to do this. You don't have to do this. That's why it's all about being staff driven. Have the team learn how to do this. They can learn how to do this kind of thing. You just got to back them up and not throw them under the bus when they start enforcing these policies and having patients comply. Because patients will come after you, doc. They look for the weakest link, and where are you? The weakest link is hiding in the back, and they know if they get a hold of you, right? They know how to butter you up about things. You just have to be firm and back up your staff when you start putting these patient policies in place. Now look, it's a change. It's different. They'd be proactive in practice. I'm all about being proactive rather than reactive. But again, it builds an environment then of sanity and peace and flow and coordination, and being on the ball and put control. Control equals income. The more control we have, the more money we make. It's critical. So again, operational policy, staff policy, patient policy, the big 3. Can't do business without them. The sooner you get them in, the better. We can give you the guidelines and steps to do it. It's all been done for you already. You don't have to reinvent the wheel here, so don't try to. Just look for it on our material, and we'll show you the way. All right. So hope this video was helpful. A little bumpy today, but you wanted to get it in and get it out there to you. So I'll be back with episode 35 before you know it. And if you're loving these videos and enjoying them, please share them. As always, I really appreciate you watching.